Welcome to Five Nuggets. This is your friend, Kat Gottlieb, and this is when I get the privilege to conversate with exceptional humans, and they give us five nuggets of wisdom. But really, we get so much more than that. We glean their perspective, their unique points of view, and valuable insight. 24 karat gold people with treasure chests of knowledge. And today, we're mining the minds of New Normal Studios co-owners AJ Miller. Hi, AJ.
Hello. Hey,
And
Kat.
Ross Catterton. Hey,
Hi,
Ross.
Kat.
These two golden souls are professional artists and now work with clients such as me, helping us craft meaningful brands through social media, videos, advertising, music, photography, and so much more. This interview will be super interesting for aspiring creatives or really anyone looking to understand or activate their right hemisphere to create, to inspire creativity, wonderment, curiosity, that conduit for inspiration and the connection to divine wisdom, inner knowing, and instinct, which don't we all need a little bit more of that these days? So
Absolutely.
if you crave a more creative centered life, listen up. And if you've ever wondered how to create a lucrative career in the creative industry, ears open, my friends. So first of all, let's give the listeners a little backstory as to who you two are. AJ, can you give a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm AJ. I'm co-owners of New Normal Studios with Ross. I am from the Midwest, so you may hear that come out in me, and I apologize preemptively for all of that. I am a creative professional, as Kat said. I do all sorts of art. I love cats. I watch a lot of cat videos, kind of obsessed. I start every morning, I try to start every morning with yoga and some affirmations. And this guy over here got me pretty into cycling recently, so that's another
Sure.
hobby of mine. And I love to write. I spend a lot of my time writing.
Yeah, and as for myself, I've had a lot of different, I guess, odd jobs kind of over the years. I started out at a conservatory in Appleton called Lawrence, where I studied music, and even further back than that, I guess I always kind of make the joke that when I was a kid, I wasn't going home and watching cartoons or anything like that. My mother owned her own advertising agency for about 30, 35 years. So I was always doing my homework sat next to the studio engineer working the soundboard while she was in the sound booth, doing 30-second and 60-second voiceovers. So I've kind of always had that sort of creative kind of marketing, production lifestyle, around me. My parents were married at WBAY in like 1975. They worked for a television station, so that kind of radio, TV, film journalism sort of situation has kind of always been around me. But yeah, we met
What a
up.
what a cool upbringing. How
Yeah,
very
it
unique.
was yeah, it was unusual. So
Yeah, I grew up on a sheep farm, so I didn't have that. I'll tell you that.
it's been kind of an interesting ride to get to this point. I kind of didn't really realize until we started working together. I think for both of us probably that you kind of pick up little things as you go along, and all of a sudden you're able to kind of turn that into a career once you really put your mind to it. So it's been a really fun ride.
I think it's really, really cool the journey that creative people take. And that kind of brings me to my first question that I have for you guys is like, the realities of the professional life of a creative, or maybe, the myths that keep a lot of creative people trapped into that starving artist mentality. Um, and maybe even some cold, hard truths about what it takes to be creative. I think so many young, aspiring creative people get out of college and they have an assumption that life's going to just kind of be handed to them. But there's a lot of learning and like hard knocks, I guess, that as creative people, you have to go through to get to a place where you can live your creativity. So can you guys give us a little bit of your perceptions from when you were young to now? Do a kind of a compare and contrast what you thought it would be like to what it is now.
Well, I mean, For me, I always thought that I was going to be some, famous rock star musician playing all over the world, and that was going to be my claim to fame. But one of the things that I noticed, or I guess learned, kind of the hard truth to put it into your words, that there came a point where I just had to, you just have to jump. I One of the things that university prepares you very well for is doing whatever you signed up to learn about. Like that's where the buck stops. Like there's an educational aspect to and a technical aspect to, for me, I was a saxophone major, to playing that instrument, but there's no how to be a musician class. There's no business side of things. There's no next step after college. So I think sometimes, to your point, when a lot of people come out of that environment, they're like, the real world is so incredibly harsh and they don't know what they're doing because all they have is the education. They don't have the wherewithal to apply it. So I always made sure that I had some sort of other job to supplement my financial income in case music wasn't enough. And I mean, in your own words from your own book, Kat, like I remember you saying to us, like, half-ass effort equals half-ass results. I mean,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
put it bluntly, but I mean, there's a lot of validity to that. So I mean, if I'm only giving 60, 75% of my energy to a musical career, I can't expect it to be incredibly successful.
Yeah.
Whereas you finally make the choice to say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do New Normal Studios, it's all in or nothing. And it
Yeah.
turns out when you really put that energy into something, especially something that you love, um, it's wildly different, the results that you're able to achieve.
So
Yeah,
just can I add just
Oh,
one
sorry.
thing?
Yeah, yeah.
We
oh
did not
yeah.
mention this about Ross. For people who are in the area and as well as, I mean, you've played in Nashville. Can you give everybody a little bit an idea of the bands where they may have seen you perform?
Oh gosh, I've played with so many over the years. One of the ones that I play with currently, it's called Kyle Megna and the Monsoons. It's a local group out of the Fox Cities here in Wisconsin. There's another one called the Cool Waters Band. But as a saxophone player, one of the joys of doing that is that you're kind of always sort of, a freelancer. You can
Yeah.
always get called from people and be like, hey, can you do a studio session for me? Or can you play on this gig? And they just send you the sheet music. You show up and play with people you've never played with before. And that's one of the things that always is going to keep me coming back to music, is that I don't need to speak Japanese to play in Japan. I don't need to speak German to play in Germany. It's an international language. All you need is music, and you can have a complete conversation with somebody. So that's one of the beautiful things about it. And from that aspect, I mean, I've opened for America, Kansas, Toto, bands like that in huge festivals and stuff like that. And that's, you know, it's like that one great golf shot. It keeps you coming back. It's not something that I'm able to, enjoy
Yeah.
every single day, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's
cool.
it's
So
yeah.
and AJ, you've worked for some recognizable brands as well, haven't you?
Oh, for sure, for sure. But my compare and contrast, the difference is the second I got out of school, I was trying to figure out how I could be the artist that sells out immediately. I was never the person fighting that. I was wondering how I could turn my creativity into money. I knew that that was possible and I wanted to be that immediately. As far as recognizable brands, yeah, I knew early on that the film industry was difficult for females. It just was hard to get into, and it still isn't as easy. I mean, it's getting better. I will say it's getting better, but it was difficult. So I knew my ways of like sneaking in were always through styling, through making things pretty, if you will, which, oh my God, I
Yeah.
despised when people said that to me early on in my career. Oh, she comes in and she makes things beautiful. I hated it. Now I'm fine with someone saying that about me, but I hated that. And it was always like how females were perceived on sets, and it's, oh my God, definitely changed. But I knew I needed a way in, so I took on all of those sorts of roles, whether it be making the set look a certain way, making the person look a certain way. So I've worked with the Packers, I've worked with Oakley, I've worked with the NRA. Oh my God, don't tell anyone that. But I had I would take on any client that would push me a little bit ahead, knowing that my long-term goal was to be the director. I didn't want to stand behind some director. I wanted to be the director. And I knew I had to be creative about how I could get there. And that was what I think is really important for creatives to understand, is that you may have to pivot often and be prepared to make small changes or even big ones to what you think you're going to do in the end result, but you can get there if you're willing to maneuver.
I think it's
Yeah,
almost a
like
requirement.
Yeah.
like one of the things we've talked about, the three of us in the past, is that creativity or creatives have to be very entrepreneurial. Like you have to be looking for opportunities. You have to see where there are needs that you can fill. And
Otherwise you will starve. You are
yeah,
right. That's
yeah, you got to constantly be proving yourself that you can handle more. And ultimately what matters the most is the outcome. It's not so much, well, I've got a college degree, so I should be running this brand, which I've heard like young people fresh out of college have said things like that. And, having to let them know that your college degree is just step number one, but you've got a whole lot to learn about the creative industry and about working in businesses and finding a way to be paid for your creativity. So that's, I think, a really good thing for aspiring creatives to understand, is that how to find the value in what you do. And then so there's value, but then there's monetization, right? So like, yes, you have value. Yes, you have, a unique perspective or a statement or talent, but then how do you monetize that? And so I think you guys have a wealth of knowledge to share about that process of figuring out, hey, we want to be creative 100%. We don't want to be doing these other things that we've been doing to supplement our creative careers. Now, how can we do this 100%? So share with the listeners how the two of you came to that conclusion and how it came to be.
There's a really kind of funny story when we first started working together, because our official business, New Normal Studios, has been an LLC for 2-3 years or so, like that. But I mean, we've come up through this industry our entire lives. So when people say like, how long have you been doing this? Like, you don't really tell them how long the company's been involved, but you know what I mean? It's been 2 years, but from her experience on film sets, and I don't mean to like speak for you, it's just always funny to me. When we first started out, when it came to video editing, for whatever reason, and I think it's because of my musical background,
Absolutely.
I love putting visuals and sound together. When you're talking about music, and I'm not going to launch into a whole thing about music theory, but the gist of it is it's a method of escapism. It's supposed to take you somewhere. It's a vehicle in which you get in and you travel to either an image, a memory, a feeling, and like whatever it is. The Greeks actually called it ethos. It was the connection between the mortal and the divine, and they had modes of music that you could write in that were. The Phrygian, for instance, is supposed to instill. Here's me not getting into music theory. The Phrygian was the scale that you were supposed to write a song in if you wanted to incite violence, if you wanted to make people go to war. You'd write a song in that mode. So it was really interesting because I love creating that motion and that energy in edit and pairing it along with it. And I also, for whatever reason, was able to do it very, very quickly.
So fast.
And AJ said to me one day, she's like, you don't have any idea how good you are, because I didn't. And I specifically at that point in time, was the best decision I ever made. I said, don't tell me. Like, I don't want to know.
Which immediately stressed me out,
Right.
because he was like, I don't want any room for comparison. And I was like, that's a great way to live.
Yeah, because like we're just starting, but like don't say, oh my gosh, you're so good at this, or you're so talented. But like I don't want to know. I don't want to exercise that part of my mind and get that. I don't want to entertain that ego. So
I think that's why you guys are so good together, because AJ is like, hey, we can do something with this, and you're just kind of like, okay, let me just create, let me just do what I do.
100%.
But I think it's like those little aspects of what we do that when it came to monetization, therein lies the value, is that we're able to do things better. We're able to do things faster. We're easier to work with.
Yeah.
A little leaner.
A little
I
leaner.
tried to explain to him a lot of the sets I was working
my
on.
God.
There'd be 60 or 70 people standing around, and I mean, an assistant to an assistant to an assistant to an assistant.
Yes.
And we quickly realized that a few really well executed people could do all of
that.
it. All of it.
Right.
So that's where we got that new normal name from.
Correct.
Actually, is we wanted people to see how we were doing things different in the industry. And a lot of it fueled from the time of pandemic. Because when I was working on film sets, they would make you quarantine together. And I'm like, I'm stuck here with 30 people when 2 of us could have done this. It's wild.
Interesting.
So I kept thinking about that and thinking about how, like how different things are going to be in the future, and hopefully how different they were. And that's what we brought when we came together. Right. We realized that we can really do a whole lot with our 2 skill sets coming together and do the work of a lot of people.
And from an industry standpoint, I mean, I think that goes back to what we just said about pivoting, that if as a creative person, you have to reinvent yourself, and you have to, like, it doesn't have to be like a complete game changer, but like every day your goal should be like, how can we move the needle just a little bit? And if we can make a process more lean, make it more cost effective for our clients, be faster at it and be better at it, then that is the new normal. Then that is the whole, that's
Love that.
That's how we kind of monetize that and made it a point to specifically set ourselves apart from everybody else in this area and everybody else in this industry.
I really want to remind people, though, when you leave school, your education starts.
Correct.
Yes.
Because I felt like college prepared me to listen really well to others and to be to do things in time with when people wanted me to do it, and that's what I learned. That's like my biggest takeaway is I was compliant. And I knew when I got out of school, that's when my real education started. You have to find people to surround yourself with, or mentors that can help you, guide you. That's like huge for me. I think if you can find a mentor that can teach you something, even if it's outside of your industry, but if you're learning from someone that has something there's that something that you don't have and you can learn from them, take that on. But I think that's our biggest thing, is educate yourself constantly.
Yes. And I think that is the new normal. Like you're saying, is that the world is changing so fast from, say, for example, when I first got out of college, probably before a lot of people were born, in the mid 80s, to where things are now, learning new skills and learning the new trends and everything, it has dynamically speeded up so much that I think the mindset for success in the creative industry is constantly learning. You have to maintain a learning mindset at all times, in order just to continue to flow with all the changes that are constantly coming our way.
Yeah. And that's what happens to some creatives that aren't willing to do that. I feel like they end up, as we keep putting it, starving. They're the starving artists, because you have to be willing to educate and evolve, and that's how you can become successful.
Right. There's a very cold phrase, like adapt or die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very cold.
Sorry.
We just got super serious over here.
Sorry. I can say it nicer. Adapt or die.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, that whole idea of that starving artist mentality too is, especially like in my genre, like of visual artists, that's still a really strong one where, they ridicule people for selling out. But, and I always thought that it's like, well, I want to live in the creative world. So that means I have to monetize. And that means I have to apply my talents in some way in which somebody wants to buy it, so I can pay my
100%.
mortgage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
There's,
that, yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, I think it's really foolish to pit artistic integrity against financial security. Like, I understand the fact that you want to be true to your whatever, but like, I've told this story a million times, and I'll make it very, very brief. There's a guy that I used to play music with. It would not change whatsoever. And I said, dude, there is just as much creativity in coming up with the song as there is in bringing it to market, as there is in selling it, if not more.
Oh,
Because it's easy to
absolutely.
sit in your room by yourself and come up with it. Oh, she left me, and this is a song about love, and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But
So
to
now you
Yeah.
know Ross's music.
yeah, but like
I'm just kidding.
seriously, like I had a friend of mine say once, "Oh, it's got to be so easy to write a love song." I'm like, it's impossible because it's
Yeah.
been done 80 million times since the
Yeah.
troubadours and trouvères in France in the 1200s. They've been writing love songs outside of the secular. Like, it's how am I going to take the most common concept in the world and now tell you about it and make it different and make it a hit? How do you do? It would be so much easier to just write a song about the moon because there's been like 10 people that have been to the moon. They
Yeah.
don't.
Something that you always say that I think is also important for creatives to remember is once you put it out in the world, it doesn't belong to you anymore.
Huge.
Your art is now the interpretation is someone else's. The thought behind
Ah,
it becomes the audience's. And as long as you're allowing yourself to go, now it's not mine,
Yeah.
I think that's like a huge step in the creative process that so many people forget.
Right.
And you taught me that early on. Like once you're done with it and you put it out, it belongs to them.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I loved that.
And it's a way to get it out of here too.
yes.
And I mean, as creative people, I mean, a lot of them are very sensitive, they're very emotional, it's just,
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the Oscar goes to,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like,
I want an Emmy, you guys. I don't want an Oscar.
it's,
That kind of
there,
BS.
there are certain songs, there's certain things that I know that I've written as a musician that like have come from, places of legitimate trauma or something like that, or like an uncomfortable place in your life. But now I'm able to access that whenever I want and not access it whenever I want because now it's in its little package and I'm done with
Yeah.
it. And I said, here you go, world. And if there's a song that I wrote about, my first hamster that died that made me cry a lot, and somebody told me that it reminded them of a wonderful relationship that they had with their grandmother or something, who knows, then that's what the song is about from now on to them. And that has to be okay with you. You can't go, no, 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 no. Let me put you back into my box. That's
Yeah.
really rude to do to somebody. That's the whole purpose of creating something, is to give it.
Right.
And what creatives should be thankful for is that somebody asked you for your art in the first place,
Right.
because there's so many other places to go get it.
That is so good. I don't even know if I've lost track of the nuggets that this first topic just brought up. I'm serious.
We've
Like that
done
is
5.
that
It's
that
great.
is
Nice to
amazing.
know.
I mean, there's like nugget 1.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, right in that little
This is the nugget beta
snippet right
testing.
there, you guys. I
Great.
mean, seriously, I think that last one I think is really important. Once it's out of you, it's for the
Yeah.
world. I think that's a
Yeah.
great one. Well, let's keep talking, and we kind of touched on this already, but that whole idea, what I love about working with the two of you, versus when I've worked with other creative people in the past, what I think you two do exceptionally well, and has led to your success and will continue to lead to your success, is that you guys take a can-do attitude. And AJ, I really think this is your lead, where you absolutely automatically say, yes, of course we can do that. But knowing that then once the client says, okay, here you go. And then you guys are like, okay, now how are we going to do this? Like I think about, the technical challenges I've handed you guys, and how you two just figure out how to make it work. And that is a really important idea for not only creatives, but for everybody out there, especially anybody who's early on in a career, taking on that, yes, I can do it. And inside your head, you're saying, yes, I can figure it out. Right?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. I think that goes back to the education thing. And I think that's why we're so confident to say yes, because immediately we're going to go and we're going to learn what we said yes to in great detail if we didn't already understand it well enough. And we're willing to do it in any way possible. And I think that's also something you have to admit to yourself is, okay, I can do this and I don't really know about it, but I'm going to be creative about how I learn it. We wanted to learn how to become the most epic at editing this specific type of editing. And so we watched a ton of videos. We learned as much as we could and still didn't know enough. So what we did was we found the creative professional out there that was doing something similar, but not exactly that. And just were like, how much can we pay you to learn from you right now? And I think sometimes you just have to be willing to go, I don't know that, but I'm going to learn. I will learn it and be ready to then it opens up so many new doors. And you're right. I do have this uncanny thing about me where I just say yes. And I've learned to not be people pleasy though from that because
Yeah.
sometimes you
Yes,
can
there is
take
that too. Yeah.
absolutely sometimes it can take over, but I think as long as you're learning and educating, saying yes is an integral part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing, I mean, from a business standpoint too, I mean, you have to be comfortable in the fact that, and for anyone out there, starting their own creative business, like, don't completely and totally flat out BS your clients. Like,
No, no, no,
don't
no.
Right.
don't blow sunshine because all that's going to do is blow up in your face. So
Correct.
if there's something that somebody asks you to do and you don't know how to do it, yes, we're willing to take that on, but client, I want to give you the caveat that we're going to kind of figure it out as we go. And if you're
Totally.
comfortable with that, then we can come up with some sort of agreement and sign, get wet ink and all that good stuff. But at least, you know,
Yeah.
unzip your fly and be like, we don't know what we're doing yet, but we will. And the great thing about what AJ is saying, especially when it comes to education, it's like both of our career paths. I learned a little bit from my mother. I learned a little bit about music. I learned a little bit from this and this and this and this and this. So the more you educate yourself, the shorter amount of time it takes for you to learn something new, because 60% of it is something you've already learned. And then
Right.
the next time you learn something, you've got 65% of it down. And all you're doing is like integrating new, I guess, tools or maybe possibly a new vocabulary, but the foundation of what you're receiving is already there because you've applied that to so many different things. So
Yes. Yeah. I think that's so wise. And for anybody, right? I think so many people have a fear of failure. So oftentimes people will resist taking on a new challenge.
I don't think I have that. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
I think I'm like this weird only child where my parents just instilled in me, yeah, you can do it. You can do whatever you want. And so part of me has this like I got it attitude, and I don't know if it's good or almost this like unrealistic self
yeah.
thing, but I don't have that artist failure fear because I just think I can do it, and it's very strange. But I'm used to being around creatives that imagine everything's gonna go wrong at every point, and I just love to laugh and sit there
Yeah.
with them and their worst case scenario everything, and I'm just the opposite when it comes to work stuff and
Yeah.
creativity.
Eventually you do have
That's
to
amazing. You were lucky. You were lucky to be raised that way. Because
It's
I
a
think most of us,
unicorn theory, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
it's so helpful, right? Because here's the secret. Nobody knows what they're doing. Like honestly,
bingo.
today is a new day. It's never happened before. Think about that. So there's a variable, all this stuff's going on. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing. So
That is one of my favorite things that your incredibly successful husband said to us one day.
Yeah.
We were working on something at your place, and he was like, yeah, we're just all figuring it out. And I was like, please don't say that. And he's like, no, really, even on the top,
Yeah.
because I consider him someone I greatly admire. He was like, there's still some imposter syndrome that sits in there, and there's still those moments of uncertainty, and you just have to like agree that I can do it. Get over it. And I loved when he said that. It just it sticks to us constantly. We talk about it all the time. How even he says that, not no one's got it all figured out.
Nobody does. And the more you look at business leaders, and you can go all the way to the top, they're all, do you guys know who the ShamWow guy was?
Oh yeah.
The infomercial guy. And he's just, look at this is the best thing ever. Everybody's a ShamWow guy. Everybody is a salesperson. And we're all just out there trying to look like we know what we're doing. And you gain confidence as you go, and you say, oh, I can be confident because I know I will figure it out. I've figured it out in the past. But for anybody who's out there thinking they have to know everything before they begin to chase their dream or accomplish something that they really want to do, just start. Like, that is the most important thing you can do. And you can figure stuff out along the way. You can be wrong, but just don't be wrong for long. That's another Brian Gottlieb saying, right? So it's just figuring shit out.
That's great. Yeah.
It's, I mean, especially when it comes to even the entrepreneurial, I mean, when we first started out, we didn't have call sheets, we didn't have script templates, we didn't have invoices, like all of those
contracts.
Like,
we had to create contracts to get
thankfully,
paid.
I think you were going to be a law student at some point, and I worked as a paralegal, so like we were able to write all of that stuff and come up. But my point is like, there's all of those little things that you don't think about when you're saying, I'm just going to go into business for myself. So it's just, you have to, I cannot stress this enough, that no matter who you are, no matter where you are, education is 100% the silver bullet. It's absolutely the silver bullet. The more you know, the more education is the light in the darkness of fear. If the more you know about it, the less you're going to be afraid about it. And that can apply to any sort of, even social scenarios, whether you want to call it like sexism or racism or anything like that. The more you know about somebody else's culture and who they are, or the more you know about what you're doing as a job, the less fear there is there, because you understand it. So
interesting.
Learn as much as possible.
So Ross, you did some paralegal stuff, but you also did some nursing stuff too. And I think that's important for, the aspiring creatives who might now be in an industry that they're like, well, I'm a nurse. How could I get into something that's creative? Well, right here we have it. Right here we have it.
Wait, I couldn't believe someone with your creative mind was, I mean, please don't take this the wrong way. I just couldn't understand how his brain could work in that manner. I see it now because you set up processes and procedures for our creativity that I know works in all areas of business or healthcare, or the way your brain works can do that. But I wanted you to, I knew you could thrive and as a creative. So I just had to, had to work with you.
And I think that leads to our third topic, which is this idea of having the courage to create. So like, no matter where you are, what industry you're currently in, there is a certain amount of soulful courage you need to have to put something out into the world and then let other people take it, or like, use it and interpret it, like you were saying before, Ross. But when you create a song, you might have created about, was it your hamster that you were upset about? That somebody else might take
it. He's still very upset about it.
But somebody else might take it as the greatest love song. Like, but that's the cool thing about being a creative person. And I just have to, I want to share a little backstory with the listeners. Why I just thought it was so valuable to talk with these two, besides that they're just so very interesting. But so one of the biggest hurdles that I had when I was publishing my book, Via Wonderment, was, well, first of all, it was a very unique book. It's like 50% artwork and then 50% like this philosophy of law of attraction that I've accumulated throughout the years. But it's very unique, and it doesn't fit like within one certain genre within like in a bookstore. And So it wasn't necessarily easy for me to find a publisher who finally said, yeah, they'll take it on because of its unique, unique placement. And I thought, yay, somebody, sees my vision and is willing to try it out and see what happens. But then the publisher asked me or said I needed to record an audiobook. And I got really stumped for months because I kept thinking to myself, like, how do I take my artwork? Like half of my book, the intention of my artwork is to have people like pause and look at the art, start to vibe with it. I intentionally created it and crafted it so that it would put people into that mindset of that wonderment mindset, right? Open up their vibrations to possibilities and happy vibes and all of that. How was I going to do an audiobook where 50% of my soul wasn't represented? And I really did not know what I was going to do. And for a while, I wasn't going to do an audiobook. But when it comes to the pragmatic side of the monetizing your creativity, you're eliminating a whole market out of who could experience and benefit from the book. It's Audible listeners. So finally, I don't know how did I finally just mention to you that I was struggling with this and I had to figure it out. And somehow I got this idea. I'm like, what if music could replace my artwork? And so I asked Ross, hey, can you write some music for me that would be like in place of my art? And then your can-do attitude was, sure, yes, I can do that. So, and then share you guys like your part of the story that as I asked you to do this, and then it was like, okay, now we're going to replace her artwork with our music. And it also that whole idea of like musical scores, and there's like so much logistics behind creativity. Like it's not that you just write a song, but okay. So tell your side of the story.
Well, it started out when you were saying, I don't know how it kind of came about. The first process was capturing all of kind of like the sound effects. Like when you said something like, you're going to get in your car and you're going to hit the gas and you're going to drive to the, whatever it is. Then we would sample, audio sounds and find, recordings and sound effects. And, I have a studio here at our office that I, do audio recording with, and so it's very easy for me to kind of manipulate those sounds. But that's kind of how it started out, and because of that, then it led into the okay, well, let's take this a step further and actually come up with some melodic, thematic material that supports the actual visuals that are in the book. And I mean, it's just as an aside, it's been one of the most personally rewarding experiences because I love doing this performances where I, showcase the, my own whatever, but from like a being commissioned standpoint, to kind of come up with something. It was a great way of creating because instead of starting with a completely blank canvas, there's a sort of framework and kind of going back to, I think, our original point of what do you do after you make it? How do you bring it to market? How do you whatever? It was really, really fun to sort of, okay, because some of these sections were 15, 20, 30 seconds long. That's not long enough for a chorus. That's not long enough for a verse or a bridge. That's not long enough for a song that has an entire overarching idea. And when you listen to music, especially like classical stuff, you hear melodies get passed around between a symphony. The oboes will have the theme, and then the violins will pick it up and they'll send it over to the cellos. And it's really these little, it's basically like a fractal. Like the whole song is one big curve, and then underneath that there's verses and choruses and bridges, and those are their own little curves. And then inside there we have the phrases within the chorus and the verse, and it kind of looks like a multi-tiered umbrella, if you will, in my mind. That's how I visualize it. So when you gave me this project, I thought, okay, how can I write music that's going to fit into a space this big as opposed to the one that I'm usually used to? So I said, okay, it's going to be a theme and variations. So there's going to be a theme that illuminates and represents the visuals that we're looking at. And then depending on where we are in the text, you're going to hear that same melody or that same vibe come back. And maybe the melody's changed a little bit. You have a different variation. But with all of the artwork, I heard tropical, I heard sunshine, I heard relaxing, I heard calm, I heard peace, I heard serenity, I heard beauty. And music, as I said, I think when we first started talking, is it's a vehicle, it's a method of escapism. It's people come to see shows because they don't want to, talk to their boyfriend or girlfriend for another hour and a half, or they don't want to watch another stupid television show. It's a place for them to go where they can just go. you know and so
Yeah.
it was really fun. I guess that's kind of how I approached it, and coming up with these themes and variations. That imagine a puzzle piece with no notches or knobs on it. It's just a square.
I like how you called it modular.
Modular,
How
yeah.
you could maneuver little bits and parts of it
Right.
around. And please, in this instance, we usually work on all of our projects together. This is not one that I had deep hands in, besides going, I have this pink ukulele. Do you want to play it? Because his brain works in these layers, and you work like that, and you just took on these songs and embodied them. And I loved how Kat gave him like direction. You gave him little direction to go, this, I want it to sound like this. And then he'd go ride his bike for a minute and come out of the room and then sit down at the piano and start playing something that was Disney mixed with magic, mixed
Yeah.
with
Jimmy Buffett.
tropical and a dash of Jimmy Buffett. And I was like, and that's it. I don't know how you stepped away for 2 minutes. You'd come back and you're like, it's Tinkerbell playing Jimmy Buffett somehow or something. I don't know. But it was magical to watch you do that and to create those little moments.
I think that's, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that's what is the cool thing about creating anything, whether it's art or music, is that it is equal parts like logistics. Like it's all that education, musical stuff that I know nothing about, so I'm not going to speak about it, but you mentioned it so eloquently. But then there is also that magical thing called inspiration and intuition and inference that artistic people harness, and that you were able to see my art and translate it into music. And for me, it was one of the coolest things that has ever happened in my life. Like when you sent it off to me, the theme song, and you said, tell me what you think. And the first time I played, I'm like, oh, it's cute. It's got a good little beat to it. And then I played it again. And that's when I just went, whoa, I just started crying. I'm like, you took my artwork and turned it into music. And that is that unknown, intangible talent that you can help. You can direct people, you can train them to play the notes, but it's that part that I don't know if you can teach that kind of talent.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. That's I mean that
It's true.
sincerely, but I mean also to kind of through the looking glass the other way. There's the band that I mentioned earlier, Kyle, Megan, and the Monsoons. Kyle is a great rhythm guitar player. He's a really good vocalist, and he writes really great music. And he said one day, okay, well, this guy is unbelievable at the piano, and that guy's really good at the drums, and blah, 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 blah. And he put together this group that whenever we record something in the studio, he sends out, honest to God, it's a cell phone recording. It's usually through Facebook Messenger. We get this, we go, what the hell is this? And we show up in the studio and we write our parts outside of that, and we all come together and we record it, and he goes, cool. And like, that's it. So what I'm getting at is you said, I kind of wanted to be in this vein, and I kind of wanted to, be around, in the ballpark of, and, Kyle will do the same thing, but there's something that people have to understand, that when you're asking especially if you are someone who works in the creative industry and you're bringing others in to help you with your project, is this concept of trust and micromanagement. And if you don't trust the person that you're working with, it's never gonna, that magic that you just mentioned is never going to happen anyways, because you're not going to
%.
allow it. So what I mean by that is also, kudos and hats off to you, Kat, because your ability to check your own ego at the door, just like my friend
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, and say, I do all of this stuff really well, but I'm going to bring in this other person that maybe does something a little bit better, and not like let that hurt your creative heart. That you understand that the beautiful thing about harmony is that you can make something better than you can make on your own. That's why we play music together, is because there's a beauty that 3 or 4 people can create that one person can. And I'm not saying that the one person's beauty isn't just as important. However, you can't recreate that by yourself. You have to be working with other people. And when that magic, like you mentioned, happens, that's, I don't know, that's the name of the game. So it was a really, really fun process.
Well, you touch on something to me that is a very personal truth, is that, trust, the idea of trust was definitely part of my evolution growing in this, creative profession. Learning how to collaborate with, and then, so like knowing my part, which is, okay, I need to be clear enough about what my expectations are, but then I pass the baton onto you, and trusting that I have the right collaborative partner, and that that I give them the freedom to do what they do is a really important thing. And I even talk about that when I'm working with clients who want me to, create a piece of artwork, or, whatever it is that I've been commissioned to do, is knowing that I have a client who understands that very important element, that when you work with creative people, let them do what they do best. Like, don't step in and start trying to tell them, are you sure that's the right, in my business, are you sure that's the right color? Can you give me some other options?
Right.
Like, you kill the creative soul when you do that. But it is also about knowing that you're working with a creative person who can execute what you're asking them to. So, there's like this two-handed thing about it. But the absolute best that you get out of people is when you trust them. That I know for sure.
And giving someone that wide of you take a stab at it, and then we come back and we say, okay, cool, this, and maybe not this, and that's fine. That's all part of the creative process. There is a whittling thing. Every sculptor starts out with a block of clay. It doesn't start out looking like David. You strip away things until that truth is,
15-year-old boy.
Yeah. That you strip away the excess until that truth is revealed.
Yes.
But if you don't allow for that initial completely no handcuffs, then the person that you're asking to create something for you is never even going to entertain the idea of going there. So if you give them all the space in the world to work, fine, and then maybe let's rein it in once we see how far out your reach is.
Yeah.
And then from there, if we need to rein it in, cool. But like, at least you're not hampered immediately out of the gate by this, and this, because otherwise you're just like, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
Very good advice for collaborating with creatives.
With anybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Trust is
1,000,000%.
Trust is
Yeah.
absolutely
There's
massive.
trust, but you still have to do your part of making sure that you give them enough of what your vision or your expectation is, so that they're not shooting in the dark either. So
Right.
it's so important. But I think if anybody out there listening, how do I get the best out of working with creatives? It is exactly what we're talking about here.
Agreed.
Trust.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Trust and communication.
And having expectations. Exactly. Setting your expectations, which I think you're great at. And that's a balance we found as our client. You lay out your expectations really clearly. And I think that's ideal for creatives to understand, here are the parameters you're working in, now go.
Yeah.
So I think that makes the process easy and really fulfilling, because it's not nitpicking. It's here's what I need. However you achieve it, just get there. And that's really wonderful to have.
That's one of the biggest things, is like, we joke about this all the time. Like, we don't care about how the work gets done, just get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of creative people, like, they get into the, like a corporate environment, or they're working for somebody else, and your processes are also micromanaged and hampered. And you're just like, Jesus, can I just, like, the work is getting done. Does it matter how we get there? And
Right.
for me, the answer is no. But
Yeah.
like I don't know. Yeah, I don't
I think it
know. That makes
applies
sense.
to I think it applies to life in general, right? Like know what your end goal is, no matter what it is, whatever goal that you're chasing or dreams, whether it's a professional one, personal one, just the better you know what you want out of life, the better you can aim for it and find the people along the way who can help you with that. But like if you don't know what that is, that's step number one. Know what you want out of life or out of a project or what have you, right? And I think the same thing can go towards having a career in the creative industry is kind of know what you want your career to be, but then allow the things to come in and out and kind of shape it and mold it. And that's a way of living 100% in your creativity, and being able to monetize it, still know that you're going somewhere. It's not just this meandering, you know, thing that you're doing.
Right.
Be like water.
Yeah.
Water can fit into any container. It can break rock. Anything can
Yep.
float in it. It's a life force. And like if it's in a jar, if it's in a glass, if it's in a bathtub, it may be in a different shape, but it's still water.
Now that we're talking about water, we're getting philosophical and deep. And so I have another question, and this is one of my favorite ones. And it's knowing what you want out of life, you know, how do you two create meaning out of your life? And what do you want your lasting legacy of New Normal to be?
When it comes to that, we talk about it a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Because the thing that was most important to us, first and foremost, is that we're storytellers. We're visual storytellers. And we want to help people convey their stories.
Yeah.
But the thing that we said from the very beginning and the legacy that we hope to leave is that if we're telling stories appropriately, we can somehow move the needle just a little bit in the right direction. And that's what we try to do with all of the clients we work with. We want their message, we want to be the vehicle for their message. We want to get it out. And that's why we started collaborating. Another reason why we started collaborating, because we knew that we had things inside of us that could make a difference if we just told them appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much so the idea of, like she said, just kind of creating new ways of doing things, new methods, and producing a product that is put together in a new and unique way, and that effectuates not anything from any sort of agenda, mind you, but just a different and better and a fresher way of doing things. I mean, that's how a market evolves. That's how businesses work. It's just I want our legacy to be something that our clients felt that no matter what their budget was, no matter what their message was, is that the truth of it was spoken. And that, we love it when people say, I came in with this kind of rough idea and you guys put it into a thing and you hit it on the head. And, one of our clients that we were working with the other day is an agency that has kind of branched out into a few different areas. They do speaking, they do, retreats and all of this stuff. And the guy said to us, he's like, you've been able to wrap this up into a 90-second bow and say it in a way that no one who even works here has been able to do in 40 years' time. And that means so much. And it's so cool because along the way you also learn things about yourself. And I think it's just really wonderful when people say, oh, New Normal Studios, like they took my vision and they absolutely made it come to life. And not only that, but we want to also always foster an atmosphere of inclusion and welcoming.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter who the hell you are or what you've got or what your idea is, that together, like I said about music, that we can create something more beautiful than in the two individual parties could have created on their own. And that's that's, I think, the difference between us and a lot of major companies and a lot of major studios is there's that, I don't ever want to lose that human element.
Yeah. Amazing. That's very touching. So folks, that's a wrap. The audiobook for Via Wonderment is now available. Download it today. It is a whole new vibe. Even if you have the paper version, you will get such a kick out of the audio version, especially now that you know the backstory. It will be even more meaningful. It is a whole new experience to immerse yourself in the wisdom that will help you manifest the life of your dreams, the creative manifestation of your legacy in the making. Thanks, until next time. If you appreciate this video, please give it a like, drop me a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Join my community of the soulful, the inspired, and the ambitious, looking to live bigger, bolder, with more meaning and purpose.